If you've played through the Hex, you should be more or less familiar with this track. However, what people might not realize is just the amount of layers that this part of the soundtrack has. It utilizes a bunch of other parts of the soundtrack, like from the Zarmon and 1999, of course, but this is exactly what makes it part of my favorites from the soundtrack. So what we immediately hear is this constant ticking sound which is present through most of, if not the entire song. This is clearly to evoke the feeling of racing against the clock, which is part of the main parts of the Hex quest itself. Which, returning to the snippet that I just played, there is the loud droning sound that plays occasionally, which I do believe which could represent the sound when the Indifferent is speaking in void tongue with the bass behind it, with an example shown here. So this next part is pretty much quintessential Warframe soundtrack. This is what you are, and this leitmotif is used throughout the game with obviously the Tenno, but also the theme of identity as a whole, as you see with the Lotus during the New War. But I think the version we're looking at here specifically comes from the Lotus Eaters. Now, this is a rather obvious thing, like most of these have been so far, but this section is The Great Despair, and it is, yes, like, boy band breakup song, which is funny. It's like self-aware, but it's interesting due to the allusions it makes towards the man in the wall. Some people say it sounds similar to Void Tongue with distortions, which I don't personally believe that to be too true. Maybe to some extent. But one thing I noticed in my finale playthrough for this video while pulling out Quincy, Aoi, and Arthur and Amir, I was definitely able to hear the section where it goes, "Pull me out of the great despair," as the Drifter was quite literally pulling them from, like, whatever the gunk is. I don't know what it's called, but, like, the gunk in the quest, right? The despair gunk? That's what we're gonna call it, right? I didn't hear it with Letty and Eleanor, but I might have been just going too fast. That happens sometimes with dynamic music. But this might have been a coincidence, but it seems like intentional, right? Like, this was more than one occasion. Okay, so I'm not going to take credit for finding this. It's just I found it was interesting and I was able to actually hear the resemblances between the music. So this person on the OST Men channel, which is where I did a decent amount of research, so shout out to that guy, whoever that guy is. I want you to notice the backing here because it is like more akin to Hold the Line than like the like foreground of the music, if that makes sense. So this is one of my favorites on the soundtrack, which is Rotten Lives, and I had to splice it together a bit, but let's focus on the parts they did choose in this track. This is the exact same section when Drifter enters 1999 and is greeted by Arthur. These two lines are actually a perfect encapsulation of both the Drifter and the Hex, because the Drifter is not meant for this world, and as for the Hex, most of them would have reacted pretty much the same, considering the Drifter tried, invading their mind. So, You Will Never Control Me is a direct response to the Drifter trying to invade the mind of Arthur specifically in the quest. It's only after the Drifter bonds with the Hex that they are able to transfer into them, not as someone to be controlled, but as a helping hand for the Hex. Next is another track from 1999, which is The Call. I don't really have anything insightful for this one, unfortunately. There's no real substance I can point to that I've discovered. But you could point towards the nuke, but that's shoehorning it, I feel. So, and just for consistency, this is the actual snippet from the song. It's obviously The Call, but it's for consistency. So this next section is a bit further in the track, obviously, a minute or two after where The Call was first heard. This is the section where the organs kick in the background, and these are from the Zariman soundtrack, obviously, but specifically on Corroded Wings. It is a little interesting because The Offering was the song that was playing in the Zariman during the main quest. It still makes sense, of course, because this is where the Indifference is trying to drag the Drifter into despair.
Do you hear it? The calls of angels, devils, life itself.
Okay, I just wanted to use that because it was in the document. I'm like, that would be kind of neat. But it is a good segue into the actual meat of this part, with being the cries of void angels. This is actually why I'm leaning more towards the Lotus Eaters version of this leitmotif, and as a whole, rather than the original, due to the sound, and also because would be raising her song in response to the Angels song. This is, of course, from On Corroded Wings, which is the Void Angel boss fight song, I'm pretty sure. And of course, I'm assuming you can hear the same sounds coming from On Corroded Wings and this part of Core Containment. So that's all that I have found, and that my friend has found, because I had a little bit of help. But there's still a few things that we couldn't actually accurately place, but they sounded like they should be from somewhere. So that's why I'm including this section. This is around 3 minutes 40 seconds into Core Containment, and it's mainly the synths that we're unable to place. Because everything else is the Lotus Eaters, but the synths sound so familiar, it's just I don't know where they could be from. So this part sounds like part of the Entrade motif, which is present in Arsenal. But I've listened to that track and I just could not hear the exact like little jingle, I guess it is. Finally, there's the Hold the Line part, which some people have said that it kind of sounds like the riff from Pick a Side or like 3 minutes into Numb, and I can kind of hear it. It's just, I think Hold the Line is more accurate. The next one is Numb, which I think is a little closer than Pick a Side to sounding like Hold the Line, but it's not entirely there. And then, of course, Pick a Side, which is, I think, the furthest. Okay, actually, the last part will be a special thanks to my friend for helping with the idea and also just with the music itself.